On the second day of the Sao Paulo Forum, representatives and delegates from the 5 continents continue at the working tables with the objective of developing proposals to define the Latin American action agenda. On the occasion of its 4th anniversary, the Yellow Vest movements in France returned to protest in the city of Paris for social and economic justice. And in Qatar, the World Cup kicked off at the Al Bayt Stadium with the opening match between the host country Qatar and Ecuador. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, work tables continue on Saturday with the participation of representatives from the 5 continents in order to generate proposals that will define the action agenda for the coming months. The activity is developed in order to jointly continue working on a strategic plan and to advance in the unity of Latin American peoples, highlighted Adan Chavez, Vice President of International Affairs of the Socialist Party of Venezuela, during his speech. In this context, the meeting shows the progress of friendship ties with all regions of the world that seek to materialize Latin American freedom and sovereignty. It is expected that around 90 delegates from other countries will participate together with national delegates. President Nicolás Maduro described the forum as the most important unifying organization in Latin America and the Caribbean since the 1990s.
The Sao Paulo Forum has been the most important unifying organization in Latin America and the Caribbean since the 1990s. The most democratic, the most diverse, the most plural, and the most unitary, because the Sao Paulo Forum, as our dear Secretary of International Relations, Ambassador Adan Coromodo Chavez Frias used to say today, and as he said now, it is a unity in diversity.
President Nicolás Maduro also called on the leaders of Latin America and the Caribbean to work together to create a common economic space to face up the imperial hegemonies.
There has to be a change in your behavior. The leaders of all Latin America must get together to understand each other, to agree on the creation of a common economic space, to agree on the creation of a common monetary system for all Latin America and the Caribbean, a monetary system that takes into account the existing currencies, the cryptocurrencies. No one will be able to see the monetary system of the 21st century without cryptocurrencies.
President Maduro also explained the impact of what he called a financial persecution against Venezuelan people.
Till it came along the most brutal sort of economic warfare that we have known and that can be known, the financial and commercial persecution through sanctions and unilateral coercive measures of the U.S. empire and of Europe against Venezuela. Over 700 sanctions against Venezuelan economy, against Venezuelan society, and against the oil industry, which took us from a year of revenues of $56 billion to revenues of $700 million, a financial hecatomb.
Authorities from Gustavo Petro's administration received the conclusions of the joint dialogues aimed at building a collective development plan in Colombia. According to the member of the House of Representatives, Gabriel Becerra, the regional dialogues will conclude this Saturday in the square of the Palacio de Nariño. Becerra stated that the debate represented an investigative space with a methodology defined by the National Planning Department and designed by national government officials to listen to the people and take note of their proposals. The official added that citizens' proposals will be analyzed by the cabinet as a whole and finally included as a government resolution in the National Development Plan to build a total peace environment. In the framework of the conclusions of the regional dialogues in Colombia, the director of the National Planning Department, Jorge Ivan Gonzalez, stated that the President's technical advisory body proposed to use resources in road maintenance and to overcome the country's social inequality.
The resources of the National Development Plan will be allocated to road infrastructure, subway infrastructure, train infrastructure. That is a crucial point, and we also want to tell the country how we achieve that socioeconomic conditions. Living standards of households in Colombia are not so unequal. How we achieve that young people and rural households have similar living conditions to those living in the cities, that we all have the same possibilities.
Welcome back to Panama's National Protection System has issued an extended warning due to persistent heavy rains in the country. The constant rainfall led the protection agency of the Caribbean country to extend the warning until Monday, reminding that this period of the year is the most critical of the season. The National Protection System reported that over 10 provinces should be vigilant against the storm that is crossing the nation. The agency added that in western provinces, more than 100 families were evacuated due to the rains and swollen rivers, leaving great losses in the pig farming sector. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us.
Experience the Qatar World Cup with Carlos Montero, and through our social networks become a protagonist of this exciting experience. From the field, only on teleSUR.
Every year, thousands of people leave their homeland to reach new horizons. A reality of those people who struggle for their freedom. Know the diverse causes of those who live between borders. Thursdays, only on teleSUR. We share your feelings, exhale your accomplishments, and show your reality. Our approach is global and keeps us in tune with the peoples. Caribbean countries also get our signal. With enthusiasm, we will continue to broadcast for them. Because we are teleSUR, the news broadcaster from South America and the Caribbean.
El mundo se mueve constantemente y todos los días se generan nuevos sucesos. Se mueve la geopolítica mundial. Nos preguntamos qué hay detrás de cada acontecimiento, cuáles son las consecuencias y cómo nos afectan. Ante estas preguntas, buscaremos poner el punto en la I.
Welcome back to From the South. On the occasion of its 4th anniversary, the Yellow Vest movement in France is once again protesting in the city of Paris for social and economic justice. According to local media, the group gathered in the Parisian capital in the early hours of the morning on Saturday to resume the mobilizations against the high cost of living and fuel prices. This demonstration is in addition to the protests of last October, when citizens demanded the resignation of President Emmanuel Macron while expressing their rejection of France's membership in NATO and the supply of arms to Ukraine. The Yellow Vest is a grouping that was born in 2018 as a result of the high inflation in the country, whose objective is also to achieve social justice, economic, ecological, and public spending. On Saturday, thousands of demonstrators filled the streets in central Paris during a protest to demand legislation and funds to fight violence against women, calling for €2 billion per year. Demonstrators carried placards reading 0.6% of rapists convicted or 0.1% of GDP is too much to ask. Demonstrators also urged more funding for shelters for women who experience domestic abuse. Currently, only around 40% of victims are offered a place in a shelter and only 12% get legal and psychological support, according to a report published by the Fondation des Femmes. According to a 2017 nationwide study, more than 220,000 women suffer physical or sexual abuse by their partners each year. United Nations officials announced that the second shipment of Russian fertilizers will go to West Africa after a first attempt was blocked in European ports because of sanctions imposed due to the conflict in Ukraine. The move followed talks between Moscow and the United Nations. The Secretary General of the UN's Trade and Development Agency, Rebecca Greenspan, said that as part of the implementation of the two agreements signed on July 22nd in Istanbul to ensure unhindered access to food and fertilizer from Ukraine and Russia, the World Food Programme announced it would facilitate the donation of 260,000 tons of fertilizers by the Russian fertilizer company Uralchem Uralkali to the neediest countries in Africa, with Malawi as its first destination. The Russian government on Saturday stated that Poland's decision to deny Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov his participation in a meeting of the Ministerial Council of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe is unprecedented and provocative. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Ministry added that Warsaw's decision is incompatible with the status of the chair of the organization, in which 57 countries participate as sovereign and independent states under the conditions of full equality. In the wake of Poland's announcement, Russia's permanent representative at the OSCE, Alexander Lukashevich, will lead the Russian delegation at the organization's ministerial meeting to be held from December 1st to the 2nd. A gas explosion in an apartment building has killed at least 9 people, including 4 children, on the island of Sakhalin in eastern Russia. Authorities said a section of a 5-story building in the town of Timovskoye collapsed after a gas cylinder exploded in one of the apartments. Sakhalin Governor Valery Limarenko informed that rescue teams were searching for more victims under the rubble. She also added that some of the 33 people known to have lived in the building remain unaccounted for. The Regional Prosecutor's Office opened an investigation into the explosion, while the investigative committee opened a criminal case on causing death on damage to property through negligence. The Davao-Sama Bridge in Davao, a southern city of Philippines, will help residents to have a smooth traffic way connecting the city with the tourist haven Samal Island when its construction is completed. According to government authorities, the bridge will bring convenient transportation as well as jobs to local people. When the Davao-Sama Bridge is finished, the travel time from Davao to the Samal Island, which usually takes an hour by ferry ride, will be cut down to only 5 minutes. The 4-way bridge will cross the Pakiputan Strait and it will span 3.98 kilometers. The engineering team will take 1 more month of survey before finalizing the engineering plan of the project and needs another 4.5 years to finish the whole construction.
The construction of this project will have a greater promotion and enhancement to the bilateral relationship between China and the Philippines and to the friendship between the two peoples. We are confident and capable to build this project with high standard and quality and make our contribution to the people of China and the Philippines.
We don't have money to pay for a fair ride. We can just walk going to Samal Island. It will also be easy riding a motorcycle. The travel time will be so fast. We really need this bridge.
Malaysia kicked off its national polls on Saturday, with voters streaming to voting centers to elect representatives who will form the next government. The 15th general election is notable for a large number of new voters, as the voting age has been lowered to 18 years old. Automatic voter registration has also been implemented, allowing anyone over the age of 18 to vote without registering with the country's election commission. There will be more than 300,000 elections workers, which will operate nearly 9,000 voting centers across the country. The commission said previously there are several coalitions vying for power, the Partisan Nacional being the oldest, having administered the country since its independence in 1957 until its defeat in the 2018 national polls. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away.
Deep gazes filled with struggles and stories. Struggles that transcend generation. Know the deepest realities through its protagonists on teleSUR documentaries. Sunday. Only on teleSUR.
We are approaching a new era. Technology trends and the massive deployment of new networks. It is just the beginning of what lies ahead in this new decade. Atomun. Travelers of knowledge, the future is today.
Welcome back to From the South. This Sunday, November 20th, the World Cup kicked off at the Al Bayt Stadium with the opening match between the host country, Qatar, and Ecuador. The opening ceremony took place in the city of York with a capacity of up to 60,000 people. Likewise, the event was attended by various personalities, presidents, and actors. The opening ceremony featured the participation of dozens of guest artists. In this sense, the tournament in which the 32 participating teams will seek to make history and conquer the coveted trophy will be the scene of the last World Cup to players by many stars of the world football, such as Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. And we can say currently that at 45 minutes into the first half, Ecuador is winning 0-0 to the host team, Qatar, with 2 goals from Ener Valencia, the first one from the penalty spot, and the second one with the assist of Ángel Preciado. North Korea's government leader Kim Jong-un confirmed the test of a new intercontinental ballistic missile carried out this Friday. North Korean media released images of the test in which, for the first time, Kim Jong-un, who is also the secretary of the Workers' Party, appears accompanied by his daughter, Jong-un, described as dangerous the situation in the region, mainly due to the constant military maneuvers by Washington and Seoul, which seeks to destabilize the country. He also assured that his country seeks to strengthen itself in the face of a possible military confrontation with the U.S. and other hostile forces, against which he did not discard the use of nuclear arsenal in case provocations continue. In response to the North Korean government's launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile, South Korea and the United States conducted air maneuvers in South Korea's air defense identification zone. In this regard, the Southern Joint Chief of Staff reported that a U.S. supersonic long-range bomber was escorted by South Korean Army F-35A fighters and U.S. F-16 fighters during an air mission in the area. According to the joint state, the maneuver is aimed at enhancing the combined capabilities of South Korea and the United States and demonstrate Washington's commitment to protect the peninsula in accordance with the so-called extended deterrence. The United States Central Command confirmed on Saturday that a U.S.-led task force will deploy over 100 unmanned vessels in the Gulf region's strategic waters by next year to prevent maritime threats. The announcement by General Michael Correa at the annual Manama Dialogue Conference in Bahrain came after Israel and the U.S. blamed Iran for a drone strike off the coast of Oman this week that hit a tanker operated by an Israeli-owned firm. Launched in September 2021, Task Force 59 was created in Bahrain, home to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, to integrate unmanned systems and artificial intelligence into the Middle East operations. General Correa also added that while airborne and subsea unmanned vessels are quite well developed, unmanned surface boats are a new technology that are essential for security. Voters in Bahrain cast their ballots on Saturday to decide the winners of the 2022 parliamentary and municipal elections after polls in the first round last week failed to produce a clear victor. They're one of the first 2 candidates of each constituency in which no one achieved a 50% vote. After the first round of voting was held on November 12, 6 candidates got elected to parliament and 7 to the municipal council. Accordingly, 80 candidates are looking forward to a decision on Saturday, of which 34 candidates are for parliament and 46 for the municipality seats. Voting as in the first round began at 8 a.m. local time and concluded late in the afternoon. The death toll from a gas cylinder explosion in a residential area of the northern Iraqi city of Sulaymaniyah has risen to 15. The explosion, which caused a house to collapse, also left 16 people injured. Sulaymaniyah civil defense said that the rescue operation to find the victims lasted 17 hours. Firefighters managed to contain the fire that broke out after the gas cylinder exploded in the second largest city in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq. The city's emergency response chief, Saman Nadar, confirmed the blast occurred due to a gas leak from a tank. Police said the fire damaged several houses and destroyed at least 5 vehicles. The Palestinian Prisoners Society warned that Israel has detained over 750 Palestinian children and minors since the beginning of 2022. Some of the children were shot and wounded, as detailed in a recent report, before being arrested by Israeli forces. They also denounced that some 160 children under 18 years old are serving sentences in Israeli prisons. Of these, 3 are girls between 16 and 17 years old, and about 5 are in administrative detention without charge or trial. The document points out that most of the children were subjected to all kinds of physical and psychological torture during their detention, in violation of international agreements and conventions on children's rights. A Syrian army checkpoint intercepted a convoy of the United States occupation forces which tried to enter the village of Al-Damkiya in Qamishli province and expel it from the area. Local sources confirmed that a convoy of 5 military vehicles of the U.S. occupation forces tried to enter Al-Damkiya village, but members of an army checkpoint intercepted and expelled it outside the area. Meanwhile, the U.S. military claimed that its base located in the so-called Green Village in the Al-Omar oil field was attacked with missiles. Actions against Washington's illegal presence are increasing in Syria as the U.S. faces more movement restrictions in the territory. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.